Hello everyone, this is a short and simple update video after a month of building the kit car, and I'm just going to go through what I've done so far, some of the challenges that I've had and how I've overcome them and that sort of thing. So I'm going to start with the thing that we started with, the differential. We made a video on this, and it was definitely a precarious step forward, or first step really, in the process of building the kit car. Had a couple of mishaps, but generally it went smoothly. I mean, the only issue that I can see with it is these bolts being a bit long. I mean, if they were slightly shorter, it'd be perfect, but I'm sure there's something that we can do about that at some point, even if it means just trimming the bolt down with a Dremel. And then I moved on to the rear suspension myself, getting these wishbones in, the top one and the bottom one, and they weren't too bad. I had to press these things in called poly bushers, and then these metal crush tubes as well, using the vise, and then I had to do that for each joint except for that one on the bottom on both sides, so that I could put the bolts through and attach it to the car. I also had to put these, this is a camber adjuster on, and the one down there is a toe adjuster, and that just adjusts how the wheel sits on the car, on the floor. And so after putting those elements in, I got started on putting the shock absorber in, as you can see here, and this was quite a not too difficult of a job, to be fair. I quite enjoyed that one actually. And then I got the drive shafts in on both sides, and then it was time to get the rear upright in, and that was quite a difficult job. I think since it had been powder coated, it was a very tight clearance between that end of the wishbone and that end of the wishbone. It was really difficult to get in, and it was one big long bolt that came through the whole thing. That bolt, it's like 180 millimeters or something. So that was definitely a difficult thing to get into the car. And I mean, there was no easy way to do it. It was the same for both sides. It was really just a lot of time kind of pushing it, and sometimes using the rubber mallet to hit it, push it down a bit or up a bit or something like that, and so I could get the bolt through. And it was definitely a relief when I did. And then me and Dad put the bearing carriers on, and I painted the brake bracket, and we mounted that, and then together we pressed the black wheel studs into the wheel flanges and put that on, tightened on that, got the disc on, and then I got the rear calipers on. And then just the other day realised that we'd forgotten that little spacer there, so I took all of it back off, put the spacer on, and then put everything back on again, which took about an hour for each side overall, just because I had some difficulties with the nuts. It uses a special kind of washer, and it makes it quite difficult to come off and that sort of thing. And it just took a little while because I wanted to be careful with it and be sure that I was doing it right. So I repeated that for both sides. And then I moved on to this fuel tank, and this middle section here is what holds on the fuel pump and the fuel sender. And I don't know why it's such a high exposure, but there we go, that's a bit better. The fuel pump obviously does as it says, it pumps the fuel through, and the fuel sender is what gauges how much fuel is left in the tank. And so that was actually a bit more difficult than you'd imagine. The fuel sender was quite easy, but the fuel pump we had to modify and cut some parts off and put new parts on. The fuel filter wasn't on there, so we had to cut part of that and then put a fuel filter on. And we had to put an alignment bracket on as well to make sure it would all fit correctly. Had to put this breather valve on as well. And then once all that was on, we were able to bolt it in. There's a couple of holes that didn't line up there and there. I'm not sure whether I'm gonna drill the holes, only because I'd need to tap into the actual fuel tank, and I'm not really sure I can be bothered to do that. And it seems quite secure, so I'm happy leaving it. Obviously I did a video fitting the fuel tank, so I won't really go through that. There still needs to go another breather valve on here, I believe, which I need to find in one of the boxes somewhere and put that on. And then the fuel tank is pretty much completely finished, except for all the wiring. Obviously there's still loose wires. Yeah, and so then me and Dad have also started working on the handbrake. Got the handbrake on, goes up nicely, but we got given the wrong handbrake cable from MK, so we haven't put it in like permanently. We haven't really tightened any of the bolts or anything. We've just got it in temporarily for now. The handbrake cable is actually a fairly or somewhat modified part as well. Like essentially we had to lay it out and we had to clip on both ends. It had this letterbox fitting, and on the passenger side we had to clip it off. We had to use the Dremel to cut through the metal cable, and then take off all of this sheathing part and shorten the cable by nearly 1 meter, and then feed it through the chassis, feed it through the half moon connector, back through the chassis, put everything back on, put that universal connector on. And so that is what should be on both sides, and that spring shouldn't be there either. So there's a new cable that's been sent, but it hasn't arrived yet, so we can't put the handbrake on just yet, at least not properly. We also had to, there's a handbrake link bar that links between this silver piece and the actual handbrake. You can just about see it there, and that came horizontally, and we actually had to put it in the vise and heat it up quite fairly hot, and then use an adjustable spanner to twist it so that one side was vertical and one was horizontal. So that was quite a fun job actually. I quite enjoyed doing that. Yeah. The prop shaft has also gone in. That was actually quite a difficult job, like in terms of maneuvering it through these, since that is actually larger than the gap there. We had to do some very strange techniques and maneuvers, so that's why it's a little bit scratched, but most of the ones I've seen have been a bit scratched, so I'm not too worried about that. Me and Dad also put this rear bulkhead panel in, riveted it in. You can see them just along there, one or two in the middle as well, and along the bottom, and we had to use Tiger Seal behind it to like seal it off from water, rain, that sort of thing, but also to help stop rattling. Obviously that helps. I mean, I don't have a loose metal bit to compare it to, but it's definitely quieter. And we did a very similar thing with this ECU mounting panel, except rather than sealant, we just put some foam underneath, just along there. And then more recently, I put this steering column in, or at least part of it anyway. This isn't actually where it goes. This whole piece goes a bit further down, and there's another piece that connects and goes through there. So it's not quite finished as of yet. But it's nearly there, Just need to get the other pieces and put it all together, because there's another piece that goes between here and the actual steering rack. Earlier today I also fit the clutch master cylinder to the clutch pedal, And there's still some things I need to work out because you press the clutch pedal and it stays there. And I'm not entirely sure how it's supposed to spring back, seeing as the brake pedal does it. And the throttle pedal has a visible spring, but the brake pedal doesn't. So I'm not entirely sure what to do about that yet. But we'll see what happens. I've also loosely put in the engine mounts and the gearbox mount down there as well. Coming to the front, me and Dad put the rockers and the shocks on the front. That was quite a fun job, but a slow one, just to make sure that everything was right. And obviously all the front suspension has to be done in quite a particular order to make sure all the bolts fit. But overall it was actually quite fun. And I've also started putting more of the suspension together. Got the top wishbones on, the bottom ones on, ball joints are on, connected the push rods to the rockers and to the lower wishbones on both sides. These are the headlight brackets, so the headlights go on there. Indicators I think go here, and these are the radiator brackets as well. This is the steering rack. I can show you that it does work quite nicely. I mean, obviously it would be easier with the steering column in and the steering wheel, but it does work. These extensions aren't exactly right. It needs a nut on this side of it, but I've just put them on to store them there really for now, because we don't have a couple of the pieces that go between the wishbones, so we can't put it on just yet. We need to have a look in all the boxes to make sure we definitely don't have them before talking to MK about it, just in case, because you never know, it'd be a bit awkward if we asked them and then they turned up somewhere. But yeah, that's most of what I've been doing and what I've done. Over here, this is like the upright assembly for the front. These bearings still need to finish being pushed in because they're not done yet. Still working out a good way on how to do that because I'm not 100% sure. And another issue that I found is these nuts that are supposed to go on here, they don't fit properly. I think the pitch of them is different to the thread on there, so that's a bit of an issue. But pressed in the wheel studs for this. The brake disc goes here for the front. This is the actual upright. That's the stub axle. That's what kind of holds the wheel on, kind of. Well, it holds that on, which holds the wheel on. And then also on this, it has the steering parts and brake bracket, that sort of thing, wing stays. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've been doing so far. The next things to do is kind of finish the handbrakes. It's not quite finished. Finish the front suspension as well. Once all the handbrake's done, we can get the boot box in as well, which means we can then actually get the like sort of whole rear panel on, I think because then everything's done in the back, so we can get that rear panel on as well. Another thing, we can get the roll bar on if we wanted to. The side panels as well, we can get them on. All of this, I mean, the side panels we could get on now, really. But it's quite a big job and I don't have very much time in the next few weeks. So that will be done at a later date. But yeah, things to finish, just finish the handbrake, finish all the steering stuff, finish all the front suspension. And then after any other small things like the panels and stuff, the engine and the gearbox is pretty much ready to go in, which is quite exciting. Obviously that all just goes here, the gearbox goes up into that tunnel and connects to the prop shaft. So yeah, the rims arrived today, they look really nice. Yeah, I think that is pretty much everything that I can cover that I've done so far and what's going on soon. And yeah, it's going really well, I think. I mean, there's been a few little mishaps along the way, but overall it's gone well. So thank you very much for watching.